G'day and welcome to this Australian Open Life, a special spotlight series episode of the men's doubles finals being played on Saturday, the 29th of January 2022 on Rod Laver Arena, Melbourne Park. The first All-Australian final for the men in 42 years, since 1980, not since Peter McNamara and Paul McNamee's, the Macs, were defeated by Mark Edmonson and Kim Warwick. Enjoy the sights, sounds, summer of tennis and a bit of footage from the regional qualifier tournaments earlier in January from Bendigo and TRALIA. Don't go away, we'll be right back with a expose on Matthew Ebden and Max Purcell, who will be playing the Special Ks, box office Nick Kyrgios and classy Tanasi Kokkinakis. We'll be right back. Welcome back to this Australian Open Life, this special insight episode into two of the Australians that are going to be playing in the first All-Australian men's doubles finals at the Australian Open since 1980, when Mark Edmonson and Kim Warwick got up over the SuperMacs, Peter McNamara and Paul McNamee. So how this episode is going to pan out, a little bit different to usual, this Player Watch episode. We're going to just give you a rundown on how on earth did these unseeded doubles players, unheralded, well-known in tennis circles, Matthew Ebden, starting out just 23 years old, been going for a couple of years, but interrupted his introduction to the ATP circuit, Max Purcell. Let's quickly go through how they got to the men's doubles final. And following that, after looking at both players, Matthew Ebden and Max Purcell, we'll be looking at just a little brief background on the players themselves. For an episode, we'll be doing an episode on the Special Ks, box office Nick Kyrgios, classy Tanasi Kokkinakis. We'll be doing that in a separate episode and hopefully get that up well in time before tomorrow's final. Don't go away, we will be right back. G'day, thanks for joining us again on this Australian Open Life. We tell stories and our story is tennis, and the story of the Australian Open might not be Ash Barty, might not be Dylan Alcott bowing out with a title in his last ever competitive Grand Slam at the top level. No, we are talking about the first All-Australian men's doubles final in 42 years. Box office Nick Kyrgios, classy Tanasi Kokkinakis. The WILDCARDS, don't forget, they're not doubles players, they're singles specialists, these two blokes, and they are playing the unseeded Australians, Matthew Ebden and Max Purcell. So let's take a look at these two blokes and how they came to be playing in an All-Australian men's doubles final. So we're just going to briefly look into, we're not going to go too deep into these matches. They've played extremely well, Ebden and Purcell, and they've played 5 matches to get to the final, starting with a match. So let's get into it. We'll start with their round 1 match. I'm not going to tell you what date it was. We're not going to get that obsessive in detail about things. But in a match on KYRGIO Arena in round 1 that went an hour and 32 minutes, Ebden and Purcell got off to a dream start in the first set against Göransson of Sweden and Ehrlich of Argentina. They squeaked through the first set, 7-6, winning 7 points to 5, and then stamped their mark on that round 1 match, completing it 6-3 in the second, an hour and 32 minutes. So a nice way to start your Grand Slam tournament in the doubles. Next up, they were up against a couple of Spaniards, and guess what? They were the 4th seeds. Ferrar from Spain, Cabal from Spain. The 4th seeds, Ebden, Purcell, went down in the first set, 6-3. They came back in the second set, 6-3, and then guess what? Went very close to a tiebreaker in the third set, but after an hour and 59 minutes, nearly the full 2 hours, they went adios to Cabal and Ferrar, 7-5 in the third. So, a great result there for them there, that they would have felt great about knocking off the 4th seeds, but they didn't stop there. Ebden and Purcell, they went up next against a mixed pairing of nationalities, the 13th seeds, Moloklan from Japan, that's not a very Japanese name, and Klassen of South Africa. Not many South Africans on the tour these days, the ATP Tour, after Wayne Ferreira retired and joined the Legends Tour. But a straight sets win for Ebden and Purcell in an hour and 29 minutes, again on KYRGIO Arena, going back to their favourite digs after the second round win on 1573 Arena, but it was a straight sets win. But it wasn't easy. You've got to take into account that these straight sets wins sometimes aren't as straight and as simple as they look on paper, because Ebden and Purcell, 7-6 in the first set. They won 7 points to 3. And they can often set the tone, can't it, how you go in that first set. And if you can get over the line in a tiebreaker, often that augurs well for what's coming next. And in this particular round 3 match, that's exactly what happened. So an hour and a half into that match, the opponents, they all met at the net, and it was Ebden and Purcell, 6-3 victorious there. Now up in the quarterfinals on KYRGIO Arena was their next match for Ebden and Purcell, and this was where they were really tested. Actually, this was the match that was going to make or break these guys, and guess what? It made them, because they came out victorious in 3 sets, the longest match yet, 2 hours and 14 minutes. Their opponents from the Netherlands, Koolhof, and from Britain, Skupski. Sounds like a Polish cop from the beat, doing the beat on somewhere off Broadway in New York, doesn't it? Skupski, the cop. But he's not a cop. He's the 10th seed with Koolhof of the Netherlands. And guess what? They won the first set, 6-3. And then Ebden and Purcell knuckled down and got back 6-4. And it went all the way to the wire in the third set. So with 2 hours and 14 minutes gone in this match, it was Ebden and Purcell that got across the line, 7-6. And it was 10 points to 6. A really tight, hard-fought, competitive match that the Aussies got through in. So now, as they were getting into the business end of the men's doubles, Ebden and Purcell got through in straight sets. But as I said before, often the case is that a straight sets win isn't as straightforward as it sounds. So their final match before getting that spot in the men's doubles final on Margaret Court Arena, Matthew Ebden and Max Purcell got up in straight sets against Ram and Salisbury, the number 2 seeds in the men's doubles side of the Australian Open Grand Slam, 6-3, 7-6, but get this, they had to even go further and harder, 11 points to 9. Incredibly tight. Imagine the pressure that those guys were under, because it's often a mental game, isn't it? Especially at this level, the margins are so fine. Imagine if that had gone to a third set and they were thinking, well, gee, we were doing pretty well there and we could have won that tiebreaker. But anyway, that's all for the history books and for those that like to write about what ifs and if onlys, and that's not what we do here at this Australian Open Life. And that's the road to the men's doubles finals. That's how Matthew Ebden of Australia and Max Purcell, also of Australia, came to be in the men's doubles finals on the 29th of January 2022 at the Australian Open, Rod Laver Arena, Melbourne Park. It's going to be on for young and old because it's going to be box office Nick Kyrgios standing alongside classy Thanasi Kokkinakis, the first Australian, all-Australian men's final since 1980. That's 42 years, long after the SuperMacs, Peter McNamara and Paul McNamee, were actually beaten by Mark Edmonson, the last Australian man to win a men's singles title at the Australian Open. Can you believe it? And he was playing with Kim Warwick, who was a fairly decent journeyman, is what we can say about Kim. And hello to you if you're both listening. But that's how they got to the Australian Open men's doubles final. So we're just going to take one final break. We want to make this as short and sharp as possible for you. I hope you've enjoyed this insight into these guys and how they fought their way through. We're going to take one final quick short break and then we're going to just introduce you to the players behind the stats. Who is Matthew Ebden? Who is Max Purcell? We've already done a little expose on Max Purcell. If you're a regular listener to this Australian Open Life, we did introduce you to Max Purcell early in January because he did play at the Olympics last year, but more about that on the other side of this Sights, Sounds, Summer of Tennis. Welcome back to this Australian Open Life. We hope you are enjoying your Grand Slam Summer of Tennis. We tell stories and our story is tennis, and the story today is the All-Australian Men's Doubles Final, the first such All-Australian final in 42 years, the last one being in 1980. But if you've been listening throughout this episode, you know all about that, so let's get straight into the players behind the stats. And although we've introduced, the regular listeners will know, we've introduced you to Max Purcell before, we're not going to go too deep or into any stats here for Max. We're just going to briefly give you a little bit of insight, reintroduce you to the player behind the stats. So Max Purcell, as regular listeners know, he actually played at the Tokyo Olympics because he was the bloke who got the magic phone call to say, guess what, Alex de Minaur has been struck down with COVID September 2021, and Max was the next player, the cab on the rank in reserve, and I wonder if he knew he was on reserve. Anyway, so Max Purcell, just 23 years of age, and now you've got to take into account, and I have to actually remind myself every time I look at a player's background or bio, you just got to keep in mind that a lot of these guys and girls, especially in the fighting ranks, the people that are, just outside of the top 100, within the top 300 in the world, a lot of them have had a very interrupted time of it due to COVID, that some of them might not have played that much in the last couple of years. So you got to take their stats and the results with you got to take that all into account. The interruption to schedule, like we don't need to go over old ground, but we all know how COVID has affected elite sport around the world for the last 2 years. So just keep that in mind. But Max, he's 23 years of age. He's out of Sydney. And he's 6'1" and 80 Ks. How do you get around a tennis court at that height with that weight? He's got a men's singles ranking of 173 at the moment, and his men's doubles rank, and this will improve next week after the rankings come out. His men's doubles rank will go up from a current ranking of 34, so look out for what that turns into. He's been on the circuit since 2016, so he's got a lot of experience. He's no pushover. He's building his career and his career profile steadily. So although he's 173 in the world, that's actually an amazing achievement for a bloke that young, because you got to remember all the guys that are ahead of him, like Kokonakis, Jordan Thompson, Jason Kubler, Alex Bolt, these sort of guys. So in that respect, Max is he's ticking along pretty well, thank you very much. He plays right-handed. So far he's racked up nearly $1 million US of prize money. He's coached by Nathan Healy, who'll be a familiar name to many tennis pros and those that really know their tennis. Nathan Healy, a well-known coach. Max yet to win a singles title. Now he could win his first doubles title tomorrow, the 29th, Saturday the 29th of January 2022. And he's also, obviously, he's played in the he played in the men's qualifying singles. He was given a wild card, but he wasn't able to do anything with that wild card. I can quickly tell you that he got through to the second round of the men's qualifying singles. That he was playing Lecheka, the 18th seed in the qualifying singles, and he went down in straight sets, but get this, 7-6, 7-6. So this kid, Max Purcell, he's primed for a big day tomorrow. So we'll just quickly finish off with a look into Matthew Ebden, who is very well known around the tennis traps. Not really that well known, to people that just switch on to the Australian Open or the Grand Slams whenever they're on. So Matthew Ebden, he's also had a lot of experience in Australia's Davis Cup teams. A very good doubles player. Never really got there with his singles, so at the moment he's 237 in the world. His men's doubles ranked 55, so well placed to really take advantage of his opportunity tomorrow. He's 34. I didn't realise he'd been around for as long as that, to be quite honest. He's born in South Africa, in Durban, would you believe. Also 6'2", also 80 Ks. Plays right-handed, turned pro in 2006. He's done pretty well for himself on the ATP Tour over that journey. Nearly $4 million US in prize money. He hasn't managed to win a singles title on the ATP Tour, but keeps plugging away. I think he has had some trouble over time with injuries, possibly, but let's face it, what tennis player doesn't? You can't all be Roger Federer. He also competed in the men's qualifying singles. Didn't get as far as he would like, I would say, and in fact, looking at looking at his journey through the qualifying singles, well, guess what? He made it into the final to get a qualifying place in the main draw of the Australian Open, and he fell so short. And he fell short against Gombos in that final, a 3-set match in 34 hours, not 34 hours, what are you talking about? 3 hours and 34 minutes from Slovakia. Norbert Gombos got over in 3 sets. Now have a listen to this storyline of the score. 7-6, Ebden won 7-3 in the first set. 7-6, Gombos won in the second set. 7 points to 5. Now have a listen to the heartbreak story of the third set. Gombos getting up 7-6 in the third and final set. 10 points to 8, and that is just. It's just crushing. That'd break your heart. So we'll finish off there. We'll just slink away on that score, but let's up the energy. Really looking forward to this All-Australian men's doubles final tomorrow, the first one in 42 years since 1980 between these 4 men. Ebden and Purcell coming up for the title tomorrow. They've got to get over the line against box office Nick Kyrgios and classy Tanasi Kokonakis from Adelaide in South Australia, who is enjoying a golden summer now that he's fit and firing, that he's got his body right. So we wish these 4 guys all the best. Thanks for listening to this episode. You've been listening to me bang on. I'm the bloke who walks. We're based in Melbourne, Australia. Our story is tennis. We tell stories around the Australian Open. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed that very rudimentary summary. I'm not going to pat myself on the back about the quality of this episode. It was really just about bringing together all those names of all those players and just letting you know that that's where things are at, because we live in a digital age, but it's actually sometimes not that easy to find all this information. And the Christmas New Year's break, I mean, who wants to spend all their time looking at endless streams of apps and websites and so let us do all the hard work for you. That's what we're here for. And it's so very much appreciated that we're finding out that from most of the viewers, whether it's by comments or likes or subscriptions, that this Australian Open Life is hitting the mark for you. You've been listening to Bloke Who Walks. This was our Wildcards episode of the Spotlight series. Have a great new year. Thanks for listening, and we'll chat to you very soon. Bye for now. Based in Melbourne, Australia, this Australian Open Life is produced by Wise Words Media and Calumny Films.